Looking towards the future of storytelling in video games, we ask ourselves the question, what makes a great character? Well, certainly the character's demeanor, their backstory, their performance, and of course, their impact on the overall narrative of the game. But while these points are irrefutable, a further question remains. How do we present all of these elements to the audience? Or in this case, the player? As technology evolves, developers have become ever more reliant on the use of cinematics and cutscenes as a storytelling device. And as time goes on, the genre of game becomes less important. But for the purposes of this video and the idea I want to expand upon, we'll be focusing specifically on RPGs. More specifically, Fallout New Vegas and Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords. Now, what do these two games have in common? For starters, they're both games developed by Obsidian Entertainment. Both of these titles were developed as sequels to majorly successful games, those being Fallout 3 and Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Both of these games were built using pre-existing assets provided by the original developers, and both of these games were built in a time period of less than 2 years. All of these facts are true, yet none of them are important to the game's narrative success. No, the real reason both of these games have critically acclaimed stories is because they utilized a principle lost on most modern-day RPGs. They decided to say, not show. Fallout New Vegas is one of the most popular RPGs of the mid-2000s. A whole video dedicated to the storytelling of this game would be warranted, but we'll be focusing on a single character who embodies the teaching of say, don't show. And that character is Joshua Graham, otherwise referred to as the Burned Man.
His name was Joshua Graham. Graham was broken on the wall of the dam. That Leggett's mistake is he didn't die trying. Answered for his failure. Twice, some say. KotOR had him burned and cast into the earth, into the largest canyon you've ever seen. Watched the flames trail all the way to the bottom. Somehow, Joshua walked away from that, went beyond KotOR's gaze, his footsteps trailing fire, walking from one hell, maybe, to another. When one is ruined like Graham was, sometimes home is the only place left. He went to New Canaan, KotOR's anger written on him like a book. KotOR's orders to the Frumentari were to watch for him, find Graham, kill him. Graham earned his life and his nature. It'll kill him more surely than any blade of the Legion. So, if you've heard word of it or seen sign of him, let it keep. Let his history keep.
The myth of the Burned Man is one of fear. A former legate of Caesar's Legion, a faction in Fallout New Vegas, whose teachings and activities imitate the Roman Empire in both presentation and execution. When we begin playing the game, we, the player, only hear rumors of this Burned Man, and how he was cast aflame and thrown off the Hoover Dam, spiraling towards the bottom of the Grand Canyon. Yet despite such a heinous execution, he managed to live and haunts the Legion, waiting to exact his revenge against Caesar. A myth built on consequence, but empowered by spoken word. In fact, the myth of the Burned Man was so dangerous that Caesar had his true name barred from being spoken among the ranks, in an attempt to preserve the legacy of the faction's success. The developers make a deliberate point to introduce the myth through optional dialogue choices and conversations with NPCs. While the myth itself is simplistic, the weight of the message is conveyed in a detailed manner. Disappointing Caesar will leave you cast aside and cast aflame. It's a perfect way to not only introduce a major faction's behaviors and beliefs, but also to plant the seed for a character you'll eventually meet in the game when you play the Honest Hearts DLC. You see, in the base game of Fallout New Vegas, you never meet the Burned Man. And some might view that as perfectly acceptable, since the myth by itself accomplishes the goal of setting tone. However, if you play the Honest Hearts DLC, you'll eventually come face to face with the myth himself. And that initial meeting continues to encapsulate the essence of say, don't show.
We should have given you a better welcome on your first visit to Zion. But from what I hear, the Whitelegs beat us to it. Whitelegs seem to be the only visitors we have these days, and I wouldn't have expected anyone from the Mojave to come looking for us. And you're a courier, no less. Not the one I was expecting, but I suppose he wouldn't have come with a caravan. I don't know if you were close to the other members of your group, but you have my sympathy. I pray for the safety of all good people who come to Zion, even Gentiles. But we can't expect God to do all the work. I have bad news for your employers. New Canaan was destroyed, its citizens scattered. All because of the Whitelegs. And Caesar, of course. The Whitelegs want to join the Legion. Caesar's rite of passage is the destruction of the New Canaanites, almost assuredly because of me. The good news is that we can help you find your way back. Daniel, one of the other New Canaanites, has made many maps of the region. The bad news is that we can't help you right now, not with everything that's going on. Even though you made your way in, there's no easy way back. The choice is yours, of course, but you're not going to find a way back to the Mojave without our help. We all go through periods of darkness. In such times, we can turn to the Lord, but it's good to have friends.
The meeting is short, straightforward, and delivered in a tone befitting a man who has conquered death. Joshua sits, cleaning his weapons, and occasionally glances your way as he addresses the conflict you find yourself entangled in. There are no cutscenes, no flashbacks, no imagery of any kind placed in front of the player's face. While we can attribute this delivery to game engine limitations, we can also commend the developers for working within those limitations to successfully nail the landing on how the myth manifests. Joshua Graham stands as a shining example of how spoken propaganda within a video game can not only build up deep lore for a game's world, but also propel a character's popularity so high that an entire DLC is made to focus on them. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords, is considered an unfinished classic of the mid-2000s RPGs. While this game does not receive as much critical acclaim as its predecessor, KotOR 2 is arguably the much better RPG for one reason alone: the villains. One such villain is the Lord of Hunger, Darth Nihilus.
He, if he can truly be called a man any longer, is one of the dark lords that pursues you. He is a breach in the Force, capable of consuming the lives of those around him. Sometimes the touch is slow, as it is with his crew. Do not think of his power as one would a weapon, or one of your warships of the Republic. It is terrible, but it is still a subtle thing. It is a technique that is almost as old as the Sith themselves. It is a means of severing connections between life, the Force, and feeding upon the death it causes. It cannot be taught. It can only be gained through instinct, through experiencing its effects firsthand. It is not something he can direct or focus, much like hunger itself. Force sensitives and worlds rich in the Force draw him. That is why where the Jedi gather, Jedi will die. He will feel it, unless they mask their presence. There is no strength in the hunger he possesses, and the will behind his power is a primal thing, and it devours him as he devours others. His mere presence kills all around him, slowly feeding him. He will feed on the galaxy, the Republic, and eventually consume the Sith as well, because it is not something that can ever truly be controlled, and it leaves nothing to conquer in its wake. And it rules him, not the other way around. It has its own will, its own instincts. He is already dead. It is simply a question of how many he kills before he falls.
Darth Nihilus is introduced to the player through, ironically, a cutscene. But if that's the case, then why is he featured in this video focusing on say, don't show? Well, Nihilus is a unique character in the story. For starters, his name is never once said by any character that references him. He is a character whose true identity is unknown to everyone, yet everyone who references him has a similar description of his demeanor. The cutscenes that we do see of Nihilus don't accurately demonstrate the true power he possesses. And within these cutscenes, he speaks a language indecipherable to the player. All of these factors combined work to build up the myth of who Nihilus is and why he's so formidable.
I was the only living thing remaining on the planet of KotOR. All that I had been connected to had been severed. When the life was bled from the planet, and yet somehow I remained, he walked upon the surface of my dead world, and there, lying in the bodies of my race, he took me for his own. And he made me see, and for the first time I saw the galaxy, and I wished to die. He showed the flickering of life on other planets, the mass of beings that swarm through the empty places of the galaxy. To see such creatures, disconnected from themselves, their world, their place in it, unable to see the currents and how they affected everything around them, absent the currents and spectrums of the Force, was nothing but crude matter, rock, flesh, emptiness. He showed me to make me believe in his cause. He convinced me the galaxy, all life, must die. He fed upon its ugliness, its screaming, and in its place, he left silence. And where there was chaos, he brought stillness and order. He is a wound in the Force, more presence than flesh. And in his wake, life dies, sacrificing itself to his hunger.
The way Nihilus's power is described is in vague notions of cosmic vision that everyone else around him cannot comprehend, until they are forced to. His ability to see life teeming in the galaxy and use that vision to find those he can feed upon is truly horrifying. But such power at that scale comes with the cost of his own life. Or rather, his body. Throughout the game, many literary connections are made to the term wound that represents not only psychological trauma, but also the actual physical pain caused by one sacrificing themselves in the pursuit of power. The other villains in this game also exemplify these mentions of wounds, yet Nihilus remains the only one who is spoken of as a myth, bolstered by those who have direct connections to him. There is a rebuttal you can make as to whether the Lord of Hunger is deserving of the title, since his existence and power are not within his control, and rather that his hunger is controlling him. However, this rebuttal would not exist without the player being told this through thoughtful dialogue, and thus the critical lore that defines our villain is best explained through the principle of say, don't show. The characters of Joshua Graham and Darth Nihilus are some of my favorites in fiction due to the creativity of their backstory delivery. It's no surprise that people would point to their respective games as overall masterclasses in storytelling and world-building. There are many more examples that you can find in both games that would build upon the topic of this video, and I invite everyone who has knowledge of such to leave a comment exploring them in detail. Thank you so much for watching. I have been your narrator, Lie Like a Dog, and this has been Say, Don't Show.